The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The air felt heavy, charged with fear. Admiral Corvin of the Xilari Dominion stared at the data screen in front of him. His tendrils twitched nervously. Across the hall, other alien representatives exchanged uneasy glances. "This cannot be real," whispered High Scholar Varric of the Yalthine Republic. His pale blue eyes were wide with shock. "A Class 14 Deathworld. Impossible. Class 14. The highest classification of planetary danger. No species in the known galaxy had ever come from such a world. Even Class 10 planets were extreme. Volcanic eruptions, unstable weather, deadly predators. But Class 14. That was a nightmare." Admiral Corvin cleared his throat. "The planet's name is Earth." The name meant nothing to them. Just another rock in the vast darkness of space. Yet the data told a different story. Gravity, higher than any civilized species could withstand. Atmosphere, a mix of gases that should have made large-scale life difficult. Oceans and landmasses, unstable, frequently reshaped by natural disasters. Predators, thousands of species capable of killing in seconds. Microorganisms, aggressive, adaptable, deadly. And worst of all, constant war. Not just survival battles between creatures, but intelligent warfare. Bombs, guns, firestorms, destruction at a scale even advanced species feared. "This planet should be lifeless," muttered Counselor Drex of the Uldari Union. "Nothing should survive here." A deep voice spoke from the shadows. "And yet, something does." The chamber turned toward the speaker. It was Archivist Zulfar, a being so old and wise that even the most powerful empires listened when he spoke. He stepped forward and pressed a button. A new image appeared on the massive holoscreen. The aliens gasped. There on the surface of Earth were cities, massive structures made of steel and glass, networks of roads, giant machines moving across the land and sky. "Advanced civilization," whispered Varric. "How is this possible?" The answer came seconds later. Another set of images filled the screen. Creatures walking, talking, working, fighting. They were bipedal, tall, with smooth skin, forward-facing eyes, and expressions that burned with intelligence. "They call themselves humans," Zulthar said. Silence. Then chaos. Every representative in the chamber began talking at once. "Impossible. A Deathworld species should not have technology. They must be dangerous, far too dangerous to be allowed in the galaxy. We must exterminate them before they become a threat." Admiral Corvin stood still, watching the images. Unlike the others, he was not shouting. His mind was racing. If these creatures survived a Class 14 Deathworld, then what else were they capable of? "We need to study them," he said at last. The chamber quieted. Scholar Varric shook his head. "You want to get closer to them. That's suicide. We must understand them before we decide anything," Corvin replied. "A team will observe them from orbit. No contact. Just scans and analysis." The council hesitated. Finally, Archivist Zulfar nodded. "Agreed. But if they are a danger to the galaxy, we will act." The decision was made. A stealth ship was sent immediately. It would arrive in 7 planetary cycles. But no one, not even the wisest minds of the Council, could predict what would happen next. Because Earth was watching them too. The stealth ship Obsidian Spear drifted silently through the blackness of space, just outside Earth's orbit. It was a state-of-the-art reconnaissance vessel, designed to remain undetectable. The Galactic Council had sent their best, observers from different species, all trained in deep space surveillance. Inside the command chamber, Commander Xyril of the Zorthal Dominion stood before the main viewing screen. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he analyzed the planet below. "This world," he muttered. "It shouldn't exist." Beside him, Technician Varlo adjusted the scanning instruments. "Sensors confirm everything the Council feared," he said. "Unstable climate, deadly biosphere, and He hesitated. And what? Kyril asked. Varlo's hands trembled as he pointed at the readings. Their energy output. It's beyond what a species from a Deathworld should have. Kyril frowned. Explain. Varlo took a deep breath. They have harnessed nuclear energy, Commander. They split atoms to fuel their machines. And their wars. The chamber fell silent. That's not possible, said Observer Kalara of the Yelthin Alliance. Her species was known for its advanced scientific minds, yet even they had only recently mastered nuclear energy. No species from a Deathworld should reach this level of intelligence. They didn't just reach it, Varlo corrected. They mastered it. And, he swallowed hard, they have weapons. Weapons strong enough to wipe out entire cities in seconds. The word sent a chill through the crew. Kyril clenched his jaw. A Deathworld species with the power to destroy planets. This is a threat unlike anything we have faced. He turned to Tactical Officer Dralzek. Keep scanning. I want to know everything about their military, their leaders, their technology. Dralzek nodded. Understood. Something was watching them. Hours passed. The obsidian spear remained hidden, watching, recording. Every discovery made the crew more uneasy. The humans were unpredictable. They fought wars among themselves, yet they built incredible machines. They had conquered the skies, explored their oceans, even sent their own ships into space. For a species that had evolved in pure chaos, they were terrifyingly organized. They should have wiped themselves out by now, Kalara whispered. Yet they keep surviving. They keep advancing. Kyril folded his arms. Perhaps that is the most dangerous thing about them. But then, something strange happened. Varlo's hands froze over his console. His heart pounded. Commander, he said, voice shaking. I think we've been detected. Cyril's head snapped toward him. Impossible. Our stealth field is perfect. Varlo's eyes were locked on the screen. Then explain this. The main display shifted, showing a live feed from Earth's surface. One of the human ground stations had changed its trajectory. Giant satellite dishes were now pointed directly at their location. They are scanning the exact region where we are hiding, Varlo whispered. The chamber filled with tension. They shouldn't have this ability, Kalara stammered. We are using next-generation cloaking technology. Even the most advanced empires cannot detect us. Cyril's claws tapped against the metal console. Unless, his voice dropped low. Unless they already knew we were here. A dreadful silence followed. Kalara spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. Commander, what if they have been watching us this whole time? Cyril turned to Dralzek. Initiate emergency scans. I want to know if they have space surveillance systems capable of detecting us. Dralzek's fingers flew across the controls. His face darkened. Commander, we have a problem. The screen zoomed in on a human satellite network, one far more advanced than the Council had predicted. Not only were these satellites scanning deep space, but they were also relaying encrypted signals. Not random signals. Signals directed at something outside the planet. They aren't just looking at their own system. Kyril realized, his voice low and cold. They are looking for others. The truth hit them all at once. The humans had been watching the stars. The humans had been preparing for visitors. And now, they might have just found one. The air in the command chamber grew thick with fear. Cyril's voice was grave. We need to report this to the Council. Immediately. But before anyone could move, the ship's emergency alarms blared. A new warning flashed across the screens. Incoming transmission. The crew's blood ran cold. The transmission was coming from Earth, and it was addressed directly to them. The emergency alarms echoed through the command chamber of the Obsidian Spear. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels. The crew stood frozen, eyes locked on the screen. Incoming transmission. The words pulsed on the display like a heartbeat. Commander Tyrell forced himself to stay calm. His reptilian fingers clenched into fists. "Are you certain this is coming from Earth?" Technician Varlo swallowed hard. "Yes, Commander. The transmission is directed at us. It bypassed all our firewalls, as if they knew exactly how to reach us." Observer Killera felt a chill down her spine. "How?" she whispered. "They don't have interstellar technology." Tyrell didn't answer. Instead, he gave a single order. "Play the message." The command chamber fell silent as the speakers crackled to life. At first, there was only static. Then, a voice. A deep, calm voice speaking in perfect galactic standard, the universal language of the Council. "We know you are there." The crew stiffened. The voice continued, steady and precise. "You have been watching us. We have been watching you." Killera's breath caught in her throat. They know." The transmission continued. "We are not hostile, but if you come as enemies, you will not leave alive." The words carried no anger, no threats, just a simple, cold truth. Then the message ended. The screen went dark. A heavy silence filled the room. No one spoke. No one moved. Finally, Tyrell broke the silence. His voice was low, controlled. "Can we trace the source?" Varlo checked his instruments, his hands shaking. The transmission came from a location near one of their major cities. He hesitated. "But, Commander, there's something strange." Tyrell turned sharply. "What?" Varlo exhaled. The signal didn't just come from one place. It came from multiple locations at the same time. Killera's eyes widened. "That means they were ready for us." Tyrell finished grimly. "They knew we were coming. They planned for this." The decision. Admiral Tyrell took a slow breath. "Send the report to the Council. Immediately." Dralzek, the tactical officer, hesitated. "Commander, what if the Council decides to attack?" Tyrell's eyes darkened. "Then it will be the greatest mistake in galactic history." He turned back to the screen, staring at the image of Earth, the so-called Class 14 Deathworld. But now he knew the truth. This was not just a Deathworld. This was a fortress. And inside it, humanity was waiting. The control chamber of the obsidian spear was deathly silent. No one spoke. No one even moved. The transmission from Earth had shaken them all. The humans knew they were here. Worse, they had responded in perfect galactic standard, something no primitive species should have known. "We are not hostile, but if you come as enemies, you will not leave alive." The words echoed in Commander Tyrell's mind. A simple message. No threats, no demands, just a fact. "This changes everything," whispered Killera, her blue skin pale with fear. Tyrell's jaw tightened. Varlo, scan for any hidden ships or weapons. The technician's hands trembled as he worked the controls. Moments later, he gasped. "Commander, there's nothing." Tyrell narrowed his eyes. "Nothing." Varlo nodded. "No warships in orbit, no planetary defense grid, no space stations armed for battle. By all logic, they should be helpless against an invasion." Killera frowned. "Then how can they be so confident?" Tyrell didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Dralzek, his tactical officer. "If we launched an attack, how long would it take to subdue this planet?" Dralzek hesitated. "Without planetary defenses, a full fleet could take control in 2 cycles." I riddle. Potted. "And if we assume their military is more advanced than expected." Dralzek's voice dropped lower. "Then it would take years." The room went cold. Killera whispered, "Commander, I don't think they're warning us about weapons." She turned to the viewing screen, looking at the dark blue oceans, the swirling storms, the endless landmasses of Earth. "I think their greatest weapon is themselves. A world built for war." The scans continued. Every new discovery made the aliens more uneasy. Over 200 nations, each with its own military. Thousands of years of warfare, from primitive blades to weapons of mass destruction. A species that evolved not just to survive, but to fight. Dralzek exhaled slowly. They fight their own kind in endless wars, yet they survive. They adapt. Kelara nodded. That's why they don't need defenses in space. Their entire planet is a battlefield. Cyril felt a deep unease settle in his chest, and if they ever unite. Nobody answered. They all knew the truth. If humanity ever stopped fighting itself, if they focused on one enemy instead of each other, they would be unstoppable. A choice to make. A new alert flashed on the screen. Seekum transmission incoming. Cyril's claws tightened. Play it. Once again, a human voice filled the chamber. We are waiting. Nothing more. Just those 3 words. Kelara shivered. Commander, what do we do? Cyril's mind raced. If the Council learned of this, they might decide to wipe out humanity before they became a threat. But after what he had seen, he wasn't sure that was even possible. His voice was quiet but firm. We leave. The crew looked at him in shock. But Commander, Dralzek started, but Cyril cut him off. We leave, and we say nothing to the Council. Varlo gulped. You mean, hide the truth. Cyril turned to face them all. We tell the Council Earth is uninhabitable. That it is too unstable for any species to survive. His voice darkened. If they ever decide to attack this world, they will regret it. Kelara exhaled in relief. You're right. If the Council learns the truth, they'll see humanity as a threat. Dralzek hesitated. And if the humans come to the stars one day? Cyril looked at the planet one last time. They will. His voice was quiet. And when they do, the galaxy will never be the same. Commander Cyril stood motionless, staring at the planet below. His mind was racing. They had come here expecting to observe a primitive species struggling to survive on a Class 14 Deathworld. Instead, they had found something far more dangerous, a species that had already mastered survival and war. And now, humanity knew they were watching. Cyril turned to his crew. Their faces were pale, their bodies tense. They understood the truth. If the Council ever learned about humanity's true potential, they would see only one option: extermination. But what if that was impossible? What if an invasion of Earth wasn't just difficult, but suicide? Cyril took a deep breath. We cannot tell the Council. Kelara's eyes widened. Commander, that's treason. Cyril's gaze was sharp. No, it's survival. He turned to Tactical Officer Dralzek. If the Council decides to attack Earth, would we win? Dralzek hesitated. His claws tapped against the console. We have superior ships, superior weapons, but he swallowed. The humans are different. They don't surrender. They don't break. They don't fight like we do. He exhaled. An invasion wouldn't be a war. It would be a slaughter for both sides. Kelara whispered, then we have to leave. We have to erase all records of this mission. Cyril nodded. Agreed. We report Earth as uninhabitable. A failed world. No resources, no intelligence, no reason for the Council to care. But Varlo's voice was shaky. What if the humans don't stay on their planet? Silence. They all knew the answer. The silent threat. Varlo's fingers danced across the controls. Commander, I've rechecked the human transmission. The way they sent the message. The precision. Cyril turned. What about it? Varlo's hands trembled. Commander, I think they've done this before. The room went cold. Kelara whispered, you mean? We weren't the first ones they detected. Varlo swallowed. I checked the records. Over the last 100 cycles, at least 4 scouting vessels vanished in this region of space. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just Gone. Cyril's blood ran cold. Kilara shook her head. Are you saying the humans have already encountered other alien species? Varlo nodded slowly. And if that's true, he hesitated. Then they learned galactic standard from somewhere. The realization hit them all at once. The humans weren't learning. The humans were studying. And somewhere, in the dark corners of space, they had already met others. Dralzek's voice was grim. What if those other species didn't leave? The last warning. Cyril's breathing was steady, but his heart pounded. Varlo, erase all records of this mission. Every scan, every transmission. We were never here. Varlo's hands moved fast. Done. The ship's engines rumbled as they prepared for departure. The obsidian spear would leave this system, and no one would ever speak of this again. But just as they were about to leave, the screen flickered. Another transmission. No words this time. Just an image. A single message from Earth, simple, but terrifying. It was a picture of a human hand, pointing directly at them. They knew. Cyril exhaled. We're leaving. The ship turned and vanished into the void of space, carrying with it a secret that could change the fate of the galaxy. Because one day, the humans would come to the stars. And when they did, they would not come in peace. The obsidian spear drifted through the void, far from the cursed blue world of Earth. Commander Cyril sat alone in his private chamber, staring at the empty screen before him. The transmission from the humans still haunted him. A single image, a human hand, pointing directly at them. It was not a threat. It was not a request. It was a warning. A sharp beep broke the silence. The council was calling. Cyril took a deep breath and accepted the transmission. The holographic form of High Chancellor Vortal flickered to life. His golden eyes studied Cyril carefully. Commander, you have returned early, Vortal said. Report. Cyril's heart pounded, but his voice remained calm. Earth is uninhabitable. A true death world with extreme conditions. Its atmosphere is unstable, its life forms too aggressive to be of any use. There is no intelligent species capable of space travel. The planet holds no value to the Council. Vortal frowned. No intelligent species. Idrel nodded. Primitive creatures roam its surface. They are violent, unstable, and will likely destroy themselves before reaching the stars. He forced a sigh. It is not worth the effort of conquest. The Chancellor was silent for a moment. Then he exhaled. A disappointment, he muttered. The Council had hoped for another world to claim. Cyril bowed his head. My deepest apologies, Chancellor. Vortal waved a dismissive hand. Very well. Your mission is complete. Return to the core worlds for reassignment. The transmission ended. Cyril leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. It worked. The Council would forget about Earth. They would ignore it. For now. The hidden threat. But deep inside, Cyril knew the truth. The humans weren't destroying themselves. They weren't primitive. And they would not remain on their planet forever. One day they would come to the stars, not as desperate refugees, not as weak explorers, but as conquerors. And the Council, they had just given humanity time to prepare. Cyril turned to the star map and stared at Earth's location. He had saved the Council from a war today. But nothing could save them from the future. Far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council, Earth's skies were no longer silent. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Arctic ice, Dr. Elias Carter stood before a massive screen, surrounded by top military officials and scientists. The transmission from the alien ship had been intercepted, decoded, and analyzed. The aliens had left. For now, a younger officer, Captain Reynolds, paced the room. They think we're primitive, he said, barely containing his anger. They think we're not ready. Dr. Carter adjusted his glasses, his voice calm. They made a critical mistake. He tapped the screen, revealing intercepted alien data. They lied to their leaders. They told the Council Earth isn't worth their time. A heavy silence fell over the room. General Harrington folded his arms. Which means they won't come back. Not yet. He looked at Carter. That buys us time. Carter nodded. And we're going to use every second of it. Project Starfire. The screen shifted, displaying schematics of new spacecraft designs, advanced propulsion systems, and energy-based weaponry. Captain Reynolds' eyes widened. You mean? Carter turned to the gathered leaders. His voice was firm. We always knew we weren't alone. We've spent decades preparing in secret, studying crashed ships, reverse engineering alien tech, developing weapons for a war we knew would come. He took a deep breath. But now we know something even more important. He pointed at the image of the alien ship, the Obsidian Spear, as it fled Earth's orbit. They're afraid of us. General Harrington's expression hardened. Then let's give them a reason to be. The silent invasion begins. In the darkness of space, 5 human-built ships, silent, undetectable, unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, drifted toward the nearest Council-controlled star system. They carried no flags, no broadcasts, no official declaration of contact. Because humanity wasn't here to introduce itself. They were here to observe, to study, to prepare, just as the aliens had done to them. The final warning. Far away, in the core worlds of the Galactic Council, Commander Kyrell sat in his quarters, staring at a private data slate. A single unauthorized message had appeared on his screen. A human transmission. No video. No audio. Just words. You were wise to leave us alone. But know this, we will see you soon. Kyrell's hands clenched into fists. The war had not begun yet, but the first move had already been made. Humanity was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same again.